My presentation today is going to be on the rights and responsibilities of consuming. We're looking obviously from the perspective of the NDIS coming into play. It's a really big deal for us in disability at the moment with all of this stuff happening. Mainly because, you know, the National Disability Insurance Scheme has taken us from a $6.5 billion sector, so that's kind of the value of the sector before the NDIS, and then apparently we're looking at transferring into a $44 billion sector by the end of the rollout of the NDIS. So it's this big shift in the amount of money that's in disability, but beyond that, I think the biggest shift that's happening is, as you probably all know, we're going from being focused on the money going to organisations to it going to individuals and the individual then deciding what's happening. So that's sort of personalisation in the NDIS around how those budgets are being spent. So basically personalisation in and of itself is that public services are now going to be delivered through individual direct payments. So with the NDIS, they've decided that that means, you know, choice and control and participation and responsibility. That's kind of the foundation of where they started with this idea. But if any of you, and I'm sure some of you, have got NDIS plans and you're starting to look at these things, there's actually more to personal control than just having a budget. And there's more to choice than having a list of services. And there's more to participation than having someone come around and take you out into the community. And I think for us, we can then step back a little bit and look at what are the rights that we have within this space, but also what's our responsibility. And I think we see choice, control and participation on that side of our rights in that space, but responsibility is something that I think is lost a little bit along the way. So if we start with rights, as citizens within the community, we all have a right to be a part of the community. We have a right to be making decisions about the kind of care that we have. We have the right to jobs and control and living independently, and these are all our rights that we have as citizens generally within the community. But because of personalisation within the NDIS, we're shifting from just being a citizen and having rights as citizens to also having rights as a consumer. And so consumer rights are something that existed well beforehand. You know, when you went out and you bought your toaster, you always had the rights for safety, information, choice. All of these things happened in that space when you went to your telecom provider and asked, you know, what kind of mobile phone you could have. You had all these rights along that way as well. It's just that now they're being transferred into the space of disability and your choice and your ideas around how you look at your disability services. So that's all great. You know, it looks fabulous. The words sound really buzzy and they're really exciting. But what do they actually mean when it comes to it? Well, I was lucky enough to jump on the ACCC website and they have some really fabulous resources there where they've actually explained clearly what those things mean. If we look at our rights are, you know, for choice, it's to ask for a better price. It's your money, and you have the right to ask for a better price if the price that's existing isn't what you want. You have the right to take your time and think about what's happening. You know, you have the right not to be pressured into doing something that you don't want to do and to say no. And you also have the right to be treated fairly. So, you know, to not be taken advantage of. Those are your rights, to not be misled. But the thing is, again, within that, it's great to have those rights. It's great to have them exist. But the problem here is how do you then exercise those and what's your responsibility within that space? You need to say no. That's your responsibility. So it's well and good to have a right to say no. That's beautiful. But you actually need to say no then. When you're standing up and the things aren't right and the service isn't what you want, you have a responsibility to say no to that service as well. And that's sort of where those rights become your responsibility as well. So it's your money and you have the responsibility to look at what's in front of you, to understand the contracts that you're being provided. And if you don't understand them, to take them back and say, no, I want something that's clearer than this. I want you to explain that to me. You also have the responsibility to keep the paperwork and keep looking at all the stuff that you have in front of you. You know, you need to be a savvy consumer. I think it's good that we have all these choices and we have all these rights now within the NDIS space. It's fabulous. but we actually have to exercise those rights. And then if we feel like our rights aren't being met, if we feel like we're not being heard or things aren't good in that particular space, we also have the responsibility to say something. How do you think we can say something? Or who do you think we can say something to if we feel like our rights aren't being met? You can contact your service provider in verbally or in writing if it's them who are, not providing your rights or not meeting your rights as you see. But you can also ask for other support and help. And we have some fabulous speakers here today who I'm sure are going to touch on those topics as well, so I won't go into it too much. But I guess the other thing that I'm here to talk about too is, like, do you think that that information could also be helpful to others, for others to know? If you're struggling with something, if it's not working for you in a particular space, or if you feel like your rights haven't been met, I personally reckon it's super rad to have that provided to other people as well, so they know, that space isn't going to be the right space for them as well. So we're having a bit of a shift. And look, guys, I am hailing from Melbourne most of the time, so please excuse my obsession with coffee. That's us from there, really. But what I want you guys to do is have a think and maybe have a chat to the person next to you about the last cafe you went to. Now, you don't have to be into coffee, it's okay, but the last cafe you went to and why you chose that cafe. Good coffee, that's a fabulous one. Who else has got a good reason? Or who else has got a reason? It doesn't have to be good. Because it was close. Because it was the one right there, and you didn't want to go 10 steps further because you needed coffee right then. Or you needed a piece of cake right then. Yes, it is hard to know where the good coffee is. So sometimes you might walk into a place thinking it's going to be good, but you have no idea. So you choose it because it's there, but then you get in and you realise it doesn't meet that need of good coffee. Yeah. What else are reasons that people chose different coffee shops or different cafes? Oh, how close it is to the toilet. Okay, that's a good one. Yep. So you like really going to a coffee shop where somebody knows who you are, so where they know who you are and they know maybe your order as well, and they're like, hey, good morning, how are you? Getting to the stage where the coffee shop knows your order, that's a really special thing too. Yeah. So guys, we have, just in this room, we have, some people like the coffee shop because, it's close to where they are. Some people will go out of their way to a different coffee shop if it's got the right kind of coffee for them. Some people are really interested in what their order is like. Like, we all within this room have such different variety of what we choose and why we choose those things. So do you think it's important then, when we're talking about feedback or when we're talking about providing information to each other, that we get nice and specific around what it is that we like about particular places? Because what's your coffee shop that you like might not be the kind of coffee shop that I like. And so having that information out about what each service is like can help us to make choices about which services we go with, and can help us exercise that right to choose in an informed way as well. So what do you think might be good about getting feedback or giving feedback? We start with giving feedback. Whether that's to a mate or it's in a public place, what do you think might be good about providing feedback? It can feel like that sometimes, doesn't it? That there's a lot of negative and not positive. I like to think of negative feedback, though, as critical feedback because it helps. Why do you think critical feedback could be good? Yeah, it's that person's perception and a critique, but why could that be helpful? So feedback can provide information to the next person coming along who can go like, oh, can you heat my coffee up a little bit more because I heard someone say it was a bit cold? Or it can also provide help to that particular coffee shop or that particular organisation to know that that's what they need to do next time because people are feeling like their coffee is too cold. So as a person who's provided feedback before to any organisation, how does it feel when you provide good feedback? How does it feel for you? Yeah, you get to feel really good, don't you? If you provide good feedback, you get that little warm fuzzy feeling of like, oh, I'm helping someone, this is fabulous. And it kind of travels on for a little while afterwards, doesn't it? You can relieve your anxieties as well. Yeah, is that when you maybe provide some critical feedback? you get to stop feeling anxious about whether that thing is happening or not, and kind of get to let that go if you've provided that in feedback. Great. So feedback can be really good for a number of different reasons. And so, it helps us exercise our right to say something about stuff, but also our responsibility, I guess, as well, to talk about why our rights haven't been met or why we feel this service isn't good. So at Clickability, we did this, and we can provide information and reviews. You can jump on there and read about stuff. I guess I want to think about, what services you guys are using, how could you provide feedback to them, and what's your experience of them as well? What would you tell a mate if they were asking you about those services? And how do you think you can share and support others to know about this as well? Yep. So, that's the end of my quick little presentation.